The film starts in 2147. Humans are forced into dark underground places, relying solely on artificial intelligence to survive. This is due to a fierce chemical war that spread across the globe, leaking radioactive materials which filled the planet's air with nuclear radiation. Every breath people take is full of fear. Worse, a terrifying virus emerged that made all men infertile overnight, pushing human civilization to the brink of collapse. Some chose to escape to space colonies, while others stayed on Earth. Nia is among those who remained. However, mutual distrust and lack of communication make it unclear how many are still alive. One morning, Nia finished breakfast and went to the lab. There are many artificial wombs here, and she has hoped to cultivate new life through artificial insemination. But due to the lack of equipment and resources, her experiment failed again. This result ruined all her previous efforts, but she won't give up easily. To relieve the stress, Nia went to the planting area, picked a small tender plant, and then examined it under the microscope. But the results showed it was still not suitable for human consumption. Humanity's situation is worse than expected. After that, Nia prepared for artificial insemination using her own body. She played a movie to ease the stress while watching it. An alarm blared around her. The robotic assistant reported the base's cooling system failure amid high external temperatures. She had to fix it urgently to protect the artificial wombs. Reluctantly, she donned her radiation suit and hurried outside. Her simple equipment offered only 17 minutes of protection, and with 6 minutes wasted, she needed to speed up. She fixed the fan with 5 minutes remaining. As she prepared to return, the assistant warned of someone's presence nearby, leading to her startled reaction. She saw a man. Both were tense seeing each other, as trust is rare in their world. Nia couldn't waste time and ran towards the base before he reacted. But he blocked her path, so Nia had to fight. He knocked her down with a swift move, seemingly wanting to speak. Suddenly, Nia hit him hard, causing him to fall in pain. Nia then knocked him out with her brass knuckles. Later, she took him to the base for a full body check and identity verification. She found out his name was Tana, but he was infertile. She thought of expelling him but noticed something strange. Tana's data suggested he lived far away, and reaching there would take at least 2.5 days, despite the radioactive air. Nia ran to ask Tana how he managed to do that. He said someone sent him the coordinates, and he gathered supplies along the way, but he didn't see anyone else on his path, and didn't know who sent the coordinates. At night, the base suddenly lit up with red warning lights, and the robot indicated a system malfunction. Oxygen levels were dropping rapidly. Nia rushed to get an oxygen mask, and at the same time, Tana collapsed due to lack of oxygen. In a critical moment, Nia manually restored the oxygen concentration to normal levels. However, the issues with the robot were serious, and she needed to find the right disc quickly to fix it, or else the artificial wombs would be destroyed. Nia thought Tana excelled at gathering supplies, but he had to wear an electric shock collar. Without it, his collected items would be destroyed. Reluctantly, he agreed. After packing, Tana donned a radiation suit and left. He had 6 hours to find the disc, or Nia would shock him directly. During his journey, he attempted to break the collar, but it was futile. After much walking, he entered a cinema and found the disc. Yet, a greater challenge awaited him. Suddenly, it began raining. If the capsule got wet, it would shrink, so it was important to be cautious on the way back. But he wasn't lucky because he'd been outside for a very long time, and the oxygen in his equipment was running out. He dragged his weary body into a shop and tried to find oxygen supplies inside. Tana grew increasingly frustrated as his oxygen supply ran out. Desperate, he removed his mask and awaited death. But it wasn't his time. He noticed a corpse with equipment nearby and quickly connected to its oxygen tank. Nia monitored Tana, fearing he might have died, but then learned from the robot servant that he was nearing the base. Eagerly, she rushed to greet him and ran to him when she saw him safe. While checking his bag, Nia found the required disc, but noticed Tana lacked oxygen for too long. She quickly repaired the system, saving him. It amazed Nia that someone could last that long without oxygen. The robotic servant noted his large lung capacity. Tana woke, attributing his endurance to his experience as a diver. This ordeal brought them closer. At dinner, Tana curiously asked about artificial wombs and the child's father. Nia explained that she found it in an abandoned lab, and Tana was silent for a while but eventually spoke his mind. Tana believed that children shouldn't be born in a post-apocalyptic world, as it would be harsh on them, but Nia replied saying that it's about survival. After saying that, she went to the lab to get some eggs. On the other hand, Tana was walking around the base and reached the planting room that Nia was taking care of. However, as soon as Tana entered, the alarm went off. Nia heard the sound and ran to him, yelling that he entered without permission. Tana wanted to explain, but before he could say anything, his stomach started to hurt. It was clear that he had eaten some of the toxic plants there. Then the scene changed, and Nia began to explain to Tana the results she reached after calculations, within 3 generations. The air would return to a habitable state. Tana was speechless and opposed Nia's plan due to radiation and the difficulty of children breathing or eating naturally. Despite understanding, Nia refused to give up on preserving humanity. Her plans failed this time before starting, leaving her in tears. Tana left without knowing. Nia was even more upset learning this. A week later, Nia woke from a dream to speak again with the robotic helper, who mentioned Tana's departure. Nia, determined, confronts the reality of her situation and acknowledges the challenges she faces in a desolate world. When Nia heard there were no other living beings, she felt disappointed and remarked they didn't need help. She went to breakfast, but fainted after a few bites. Meanwhile, Tana continued his survival efforts by searching for supplies in a seaside hut, ensuring he had enough oxygen. Upon exiting, he stopped, surprised to see an insect, as it had been a long time since he'd seen a living creature. Later, he noticed many insects on a bridge, hinting some marine species survived the nuclear radiation. Meanwhile, Nia regained consciousness from the coma. Feeling a void, Nia confronted Tana when he suddenly appeared, accusing him of secrecy. Pleading for the truth, Tana abruptly revealed he'd had a vasectomy, hinting he could still have children. Nia was upset as her health was declining, and it seemed too late. Then Tana unexpectedly caught a sea crab and announced that Nia was correct about creatures living amid radiation, inspiring her greatly. They donned suits, ventured to the sea, and returned the crab to its home in the ocean. Afterwards, Tana cleaned the sea and collected a bag of seaweeds and seafood. Once she pulled the seaweeds with the machine, Nia felt very happy because she knew that Tana might be running out of oxygen. So she quickly turned on the machine to pull him up. But at a critical moment, the machine broke down. Nia began pulling the rope by hand, but when she saw the hook empty, she felt great sadness. At that moment, she saw Tana swimming back to shore, so she ran to give him the oxygen mask. At the base, they both enjoyed a seafood feast. They had plenty of compressed biscuits to eat, and with that provision, they could grow edible plants. And while Nia was full of hope for the future, the base suddenly launched its gaze. Nia ran to see what was happening and saw Tana lying on the ground in great pain. She asked the robot frantically what was happening, and the robot replied that everything was going according to its plan, and they didn't need anyone's help. It turned out that the one who sent Tana the coordinates was actually the robot. It knew its disk was faulty, so it lured Tana, and the failure of the second reproduction experiment was also its doing. And when she saw that Tana could not endure anymore, she resorted to extreme and forbidden measures to force the robot to listen to her. When it sensed her vital signs were declining rapidly, the robot admitted its mistake and explained that its security system had been deleted, which led it to make wrong decisions. It asked her to perform a manual reset. Nia told it that this would erase all past data. The robot said it understood but still requested the reset so that Nia could survive. After bidding farewell to its owner, it immediately shut down due to loss of function. Then the entire base's ventilation system failed, and at that moment, Tana handed Nia an oxygen mask, but there was very little oxygen left. They had to manually reactivate the robot. Then they split the tasks. One was responsible for manually pulling the key, and the other was responsible for removing the disk. On the way, they realized their oxygen had run out. Tana could hold his breath, but Nia was just an ordinary person, and by the time Tana returned, Nia had collapsed to the ground unconscious. Fortunately, the robot successfully rebooted. The scene changed, and Nia and Tana began living a happy life. Their garden finally produced edible fruit, and they enjoyed a meal they had worked hard on, laughing with joy. The final shot focused on the artificial womb, suggesting that their plan for having a child succeeded.